Hello and welcome. I am Juliet Rizzo and I will be talking with Paul Steenan from the Office of Special Education Programs, or OSEP, about the final Part B regulations implementing the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. We'll be talking about the provisions relating to highly qualified teachers. Welcome, Paul, and thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Juliet. I'm glad to be here. We think these are extremely important provisions, and in the spirit of No Child Left Behind, or NCLB, we really believe they will result in a high-quality education for children with disabilities.
Let's talk about the connection between IDEA and NCLB in the area of highly qualified teachers. Since there are already requirements in this area in NCLB, why was it necessary, Paul, to include requirements in IDEA as well?
NCLB specifically addresses the requirements for regular education teachers in core academic subjects like reading and language arts, math, English, science, foreign languages, civics and government, economics, arts, history, and geography. However, questions arose about requirements for special education teachers who teach core academic subjects to children with disabilities. When Congress amended IDEA in 2004, it specifically included requirements around highly qualified teachers. Congress did so to ensure that children with disabilities have access to the same high-quality education and high academic standards as children without disabilities.
So tell me how the requirements around highly qualified teachers in IDEA accomplish that goal.
There are three main requirements that special education teachers must meet. First, public elementary or secondary school special education teachers who teach core academic subjects must meet the same requirements under NCLB that non-special education teachers must meet. That's a clear alignment with the requirements of NCLB. However, and I will explain this in more detail later, some special education teachers, those who teach core academic subjects only to children who are assessed against alternate achievement standards, and those who teach two or more core academic subjects only to children with disabilities may be able to meet these requirements in a different way. Second, special educators must obtain full state certification as a special education teacher or have passed the state's special education teacher licensing examination and hold a license to teach in the state as a special education teacher. The special education certification or licensure requirements may not have been waived on an emergency, temporary, or provisional basis. Third, a special education teacher must hold at least a bachelor's degree.
Let's stop there a minute. What happens if a state doesn't have a special education licensing exam? Will special education teachers have to attend a 4-year program of special education training in those states?
No. A state may have what the regulations refer to as alternative routes to certification.
Are there requirements for these alternative routes?
Yes, there are 4 main requirements. First, the alternative route must provide high-quality professional development that is sustained, intensive, and classroom-focused. We expect that this will ensure a positive and lasting impact on classroom instruction before and during teaching. Second, the teacher must participate in a program of intensive supervision that consists of structured guidance and regular ongoing support, or a teacher mentoring program. Third, a candidate participating in an alternative certification process may only function as a teacher for a specified period of time, not to exceed 3 years. Fourth, the candidate must demonstrate satisfactory progress toward full certification.
Is the expectation that all children with disabilities can and should meet the same achievement standards as their non-disabled peers?
As you know, IEP teams determine the educational programs for individual children with disabilities. We know that some children with the most significant cognitive disabilities may achieve to alternate achievement standards, standards that reflect a professional judgment of the highest possible achievement for that student. Remember that I mentioned earlier that some special education teachers may be able to meet the definition of a highly qualified teacher in a different manner?
Yes. Could you explain what you meant by that?
If a special educator teaches core academic subjects only to children who are assessed against alternate achievement standards, That teacher may be a highly qualified teacher by meeting the NCLB standards for elementary, middle, or secondary school teachers. Alternatively, the teacher could meet certain NCLB requirements applied to an elementary teacher. Furthermore, in the case of instruction above the elementary level, special education teachers who teach core academic subjects only to children who are assessed against alternate achievement standards may meet the NCLB elementary teacher requirements, but also must have subject matter knowledge appropriate to the level of instruction being provided and needed to effectively teach to those standards.
You also mentioned that there are specific rules for special education teachers who teach multiple subjects only to children with disabilities. What are those rules?
There are 3 ways for special education teachers who teach 2 or more core academic subjects only to children with disabilities to meet the requirements of a highly qualified teacher. The first is straightforward. The teacher may meet the NCLB requirements for teaching core academic subjects. Basically, that the teacher is certified in all subjects taught or has demonstrated sufficient knowledge in all subjects taught. The second approach applies to a special education teacher who is not new to the profession. That teacher must demonstrate competence in all the core academic subjects he or she teaches. The third approach applies to special education teachers who are new to the profession. If they are qualified in mathematics, language arts, or science, they must demonstrate competence in the other core academic subjects taught within 2 years of being hired. The regulations describe these processes in more detail, but this provides you with a basic overview of the requirements.
You've mentioned teachers who are new to the profession and not new to the profession. How is the distinction made?
Finally, a question that's relatively easy to answer.
That's a good thing. It's been pretty heavy going up until this point.
This whole issue of highly qualified teachers is very complex, but it is so important to children with disabilities. We know from research and from our own observations in the field that student achievement is highly correlated with the qualifications and abilities of the teachers who provide the instruction. But let's get back to the easy question. You asked how we distinguish teachers new to the profession from teachers who are not new to the profession. A fully certified special education teacher who is being hired for the first time to teach special education is considered new to the profession. In addition, a fully certified regular teacher who becomes fully certified or licensed as a special education teacher is a new teacher when first hired to teach special education. In other words, regardless of how long a teacher has been teaching, a fully certified teacher is considered a new special education teacher when he or she is first hired to teach special education.
You're right. That's pretty easy to grasp compared to some of the more complex information you've shared so far. You haven't mentioned the term house yet, but I've heard it used in conjunction with highly qualified teacher requirements. What is it, and how does it fit into these requirements?
HOUSE stands for High, Objective, Uniform, State Standard of Evaluation. So it's HOUSE, with 2 S's in the acronym. This is a teacher evaluation tool that states have an option to create under NCLB. It may apply in a case of a special education teacher teaching multiple core academic subjects, whether new or not new to the profession. IDEA allows states to develop a separate house for special education teachers as long as it does not establish a lower standard for the content knowledge requirements and it meets all the requirements of a house for regular education teachers. In addition, a state may develop a single house that covers multiple subjects.
It sounds as if the existence of the House provisions in IDEA simply underscore again the alignment between NCLB and IDEA on the subject of highly qualified teachers. It also seems to provide flexibility for states in ensuring that teachers are highly qualified without lowering standards in order to accomplish that goal.
Exactly. That's the intent. We expect to continue to clarify this provision as we move forward through implementation. Here, too, we can learn from the experience of states and districts implementing NCLB.
What about teachers in private schools and charter schools? You mentioned only public school special educators.
Teachers in public charter schools are subject to the certification or licensure requirements that are set forth in the state's public charter school law. Except for the issue of licensure and certification, the highly qualified standards apply to teachers in public charter schools. The provisions under IDEA do not apply to private school teachers who teach children with disabilities placed by their parents in a private school.
This has been a good, if weighty, discussion of a complex topic. I appreciate your willingness to help walk us through these requirements. But before we end our discussion, I have one more question. What can parents do if they believe their child's teacher is not highly qualified?
While parents may not, under IDEA, request a due process hearing over the qualifications of their child's teacher, they may file a complaint with the state. Of course, we always recommend that a parent first talk with the teacher or the school administrator before proceeding to dispute resolution. That way, as we begin to implement the regulations, everyone will be working together.
That does make sense, and it's good information for everyone in our audience to have. Again, Paul, thanks for taking the time today to discuss this topic.
You're welcome, Juliet. Thanks for talking with me about highly qualified teacher requirements.
This video is one in a series prepared by the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Special Education Programs, or OSEP, to assist our stakeholders in better understanding some of the significant provisions of the final regulations implementing IDEA 2004. We hope you found it helpful, and we thank you for your attention.